Here's the updated timeline, now including the return of Square Enix to Nintendo platforms. 1980s, the founding and early years. 1986, Square is founded by Hironobu Sakaguchi, Nahiro Nakamura, Tetsuya Nomura, and others as a subsidiary of the Denyu Company. 1986, Enix is founded by Yasuhiro Fukushima. It initially focused on publishing games rather than developing them. 1990s, rise to prominence. 1991, Square releases Final Fantasy, which becomes a landmark in the RPG genre and sets the stage for future success. 1994, Enix releases the first game in the Dragon Quest series, another seminal RPG that becomes a major influence on the genre. 1996, Square begins shifting development of its games from the Super Nintendo to the Sony PlayStation, marking a significant departure from Nintendo platforms. Final Fantasy VII, initially considered for the N64, becomes one of the most iconic titles developed for the PlayStation, solidifying the company's partnership with Sony. 1997, Final Fantasy VII is released for the PlayStation, marking Square's full commitment to Sony's platform. This game becomes a huge commercial and critical success, greatly expanding the brand internationally. As a result, Square's future RPG titles are developed exclusively for the PlayStation, leaving behind the Nintendo 64. 1998, Enix releases Dragon Quest V, Hand of the Heavenly Bride, continuing the success of its flagship RPG series. 1999, the Nintendo 64's limited CD-ROM support and smaller third-party library, especially compared to PlayStation, leads Square to fully move its titles away from the N64 in favor of Sony's platform, with Final Fantasy IX also appearing on the PlayStation. 2000s, merging and expanding portfolio. 2003, Square and Enix announced their merger, forming Square Enix, with Yoichi Wada becoming president. 2003, Square Enix begins consolidating its diverse portfolio of games, franchises, and studios. 2004, Kingdom Hearts, developed by Square Enix in collaboration with Disney, is released, quickly becoming a hit. 2005, Final Fantasy XII is released, marking a new direction for the series with an open-world design. 2006, Square Enix releases Final Fantasy III for the Nintendo DS, marking the company's first significant return to a Nintendo platform in over a decade. This was followed by more Nintendo-focused titles, including Final Fantasy Tactics A2 for the Nintendo DS. 2007, Dragon Quest IX is released for the Nintendo DS, marking a significant shift as Square Enix begins to embrace handheld Nintendo platforms more seriously. 2009, Final Fantasy XIII is released, with a significant shift to more linear gameplay and a focus on high-quality visuals and cinematics. 2010s, the age of HD games and mobile development. 2010, Square Enix releases Final Fantasy XIV, that initially faces significant technical and design challenges but is later reworked onto a critically acclaimed version titled Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. 2011, Square Enix releases The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks on the Nintendo DS, as well as Dragon Quest X for the Nintendo Wii in Japan, marking further engagement with Nintendo platforms. 2013, Tomb Raider 2013, is released, revitalizing the franchise with a new focus on survival and exploration. 2014, Square Enix focuses heavily on the development of Final Fantasy XV, marking a transition to an open-world format. 2016, Final Fantasy XV is released to both critical and commercial success, introducing a more modern and expansive RPG experience. 2017, Square Enix releases Dragon Quest XI for the Nintendo 3DS and Nintendo Switch, marking a major return to Nintendo's home console with the critically acclaimed RPG. 2018, Square Enix continues to develop titles for the Nintendo Switch, including the release of Octopath Traveler, which becomes a major success and highlights Square Enix's embrace of Nintendo's hybrid console. 2020s, continued success and new ventures. 2020, Square Enix releases Final Fantasy VII Remake, A reimagined version of the iconic 1997 game with updated gameplay and visuals. 2021, Square Enix announces Forspoken, a new action RPG developed by Luminous Productions, a subsidiary, with the focus on magic and parkour-style movement in an open world. 2022, Square Enix sells off its Western studios, including Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics, to the Embracer Group, focusing more on its core Japanese operations. 2023, Square Enix announces continued support for games like Final Fantasy XVI and Dragon Quest XII, further cementing their place in the RPG genre. 2023, Square Enix releases Final Fantasy XVI and Dragon Quest XII on both PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch platforms, marking a return to multi-platform releases for the company. The success of the Switch continues to encourage Square Enix's return to Nintendo platforms for major titles. This timeline now highlights Square Enix's transition from abandoning Nintendo platforms in favor of PlayStation, then gradually returning to Nintendo, particularly with the success of the Nintendo DS, Nintendo 3DS, and Nintendo Switch. The company's multi-platform strategy has allowed it to cater to a broader audience while maintaining its traditional focus on high-quality RPGs. For many,